Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jordan from Laundromat Resource and laundromatresource.com. And I'm really excited you're here today because today we're letting the cat out of the bag. And I'm going to tell you the super secret way of getting a laundromat for free. In fact, I'm going to tell you a few different ways to get a laundromat for free. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you the secret way of getting a laundromat for free. You may have seen other YouTube videos about selling a course on how to do this. I'm just going to tell you there are no secrets. This is not an industry secret. I am not that magician that's masked and is revealing all the magic tricks. That's not me, because this is a well-known technique. So I'm going to tell you all about exactly how to get a laundromat for free in that super secret way. And I'm actually even going to tell you a semi-shady alternative that's being taught to getting a laundromat for free also that's related to that secret way. So stay tuned for that. But there are multiple ways of getting a laundromat for free, and I want to tell you about how you can do that if that's something that you're interested in doing. So let's get into it. Okay, the first way that you can get a laundromat for free is this. It's seller financing. And if you're maybe a real estate investor, you're into that, or you may have heard of seller financing. It's kind of like the holy grail of real estate investing. Everybody's always looking for seller financing. Well, here's the thing about buying laundromats is that it's really common to get seller financing for all or part of your purchase of a laundromat. And while it's not exactly free, you're paying money for it still. It's actually your business that's buying the business for you, especially if you can negotiate 100% seller financing, which is possible to do. Not all sellers will do that, but a lot of times laundromat sellers will actually prefer to seller finance all or part of the deal. Maybe they only need a certain amount of money, or maybe they don't need any of that money right now, and they'd actually prefer to get $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month by basically becoming a bank and lending you money secured by the business, a business they already know about and they know how to run it. And so that can be an attractive option. One of the benefits to sellers for offering that financing, besides just having a steady asset-backed income for a certain period of time, is that it can dramatically reduce the amount of taxes that they pay. Let's say they're selling their laundromat and it's $500,000. Well, if you go out and you get a loan and you put your down payment and the loan pays off the rest of it, for them, they have $500,000 and they have to pay taxes on that full $500,000 for that year. And that can be a big chunk of change depending on what tax bracket they're in. And so that's a lot of money. And so a lot of times what sellers will do is they'll say, hey, give me a smaller portion, or hey, I don't need any of it right now. Let's negotiate a deal where I'll finance the money for you and you just pay me every month, essentially like a rent, essentially. It's like a loan payment, and you just pay them every month. And that business, as long as you buy it correctly, that business is actually paying for itself. And that's what makes it free. It's not that nobody's paying for it. It's that the business is paying for itself. And that's kind of the idea of a business anyways, is that the business should be able to support itself. It doesn't always work out that way. It didn't work out for me that way with my very first laundromat for a really long time. And if you haven't heard that story, go back and listen to it. I like the very first YouTube video I put up if you're interested in that train wreck. But ideally, that's what businesses are for, is to support themselves and to support you. So negotiating a seller finance deal can make it to where you have no or very little money out of your pocket to actually acquire the business. And so you're getting it for free and then letting that business pay for itself. It's a really, really powerful way of doing things, because a lot of times to get loans, whether it's an SBA loan or whatever kind of loan you're getting, man, it can be a huge pain to do that. And it's just, man, I mean, by all means, get a loan if you need a loan. But it can be so much simpler just to get seller financing. I've done it before, and I told, the seller, look, here's my credit score. Here's, I'm reliable. I own another laundromat, so I know what I'm doing. And she felt very good about just offering seller financing. And so I set up a deal that way where it was a seller finance deal. So it's definitely possible. It's definitely doable. And it's an awesome way to let your business pay for itself. So, man, that is a great way if you're looking for a way to acquire a laundromat for free or for very little money. That is a great way to do it. So definitely look into seller financing, and you can always ask and maybe present some of the benefits to a seller if they're a little hesitant at first, saying, hey, look, this could be a really good tax, a tax advantage for you, which is one of the three legs of the wealth tripod, cash flow, equity, and tax advantages. Well, they can get cash flow and tax advantages right there by offering seller finances. That's a great deal for them. So it's always worth asking, hey, what do you plan on doing with this money for selling your business? If they don't have big plans for it, why don't you say, hey, let's skip the ups and downs of the stock market and all the stress that can bring, and let's just do a loan that's backed by the business, a business that you know how to run. So if, God forbid, you had to foreclose on me and take the business back, you know how to run it and you can sell it again, however you want to. But I don't plan on that happening. So, let's do that. So it's always worth asking if that's something that interests you, if the seller is willing to carry back all or part of that loan amount. So seller financing, great first way to get a laundromat for free. Let's talk about another way to get a laundromat for free. And that is, again, if you're in the real estate game, you'll be aware of partnering, joint ventures and partnerships. And those can be really powerful. And I hear all the time, I'm in real estate investing clubs and I'm online in different forums and stuff where people are always saying, hey, you need time, you need knowledge, and you need money to get a real estate deal. And the same is true with the laundromat deal. You need time, you need knowledge, and you need money. And they're always saying in those real estate forums and in the webinars and the podcasts and everything that I listen to and read and watch, they're always saying, hey, maybe you don't have the money, but you can come with time and you can come in your energy and you can come with knowledge. And that is true. In real estate, you can do those things. However, real estate's pretty simple. It doesn't require a ton of time, especially if you're going to go with a property management company. It doesn't require a ton of time. And the knowledge is there. It's not that hard to get. You can get it on your commute, listening to podcasts and audiobooks. You can read books about it. There's blog posts everywhere about how to do real estate investing. And it's not that hard to do. And so the value of that time and that knowledge, it's there, but it's fairly minimal, I would say, relatively speaking, at least, to something like laundromat ownership, where it's also not super time intensive and it's not super complex. It's a pretty simple business. Two really good reasons to maybe consider buying a laundromat. However, it is a little more time intensive and a little more complex, I would say, than most real estate investing that people are looking to get into. And so when you come to a partner who has money, but maybe they don't have time and they don't have the knowledge, well, you're getting the knowledge here. You know how to run a laundromat, or at least if you don't, you know where to look to figure out how to run a laundromat. You know who to ask to figure out how to run a laundromat. And all of a sudden, the time that you might have and the knowledge that you might have is significantly more valuable to that investor that has money, but maybe doesn't have as much time and doesn't have as much knowledge and time to get that knowledge. And so a partnership in a laundromat business, I think, is a much more lucrative than partnership in most kind of mom and pop real estate investing joint ventures. And so that is a great way to get into a laundromat. ownership without having money is to partner with somebody. And I'll tell you, we offer coaching at laundromatresource.com/coaching. I'll put a link down below if you're interested in that. We'll do a coaching session for free, so you can ask questions, whatever questions you want. And we do our best to answer those to the best of our abilities. But I do a lot of coaching of people who are trying to get into the laundromat industry, and also people who are in it who have specific questions on how to grow or get into multiple stores and how to scale and those kinds of things. But specifically, I talk to a lot of professionals who have capital, who are looking to put that capital into a laundromat in order to create some cash flow and some side income and to have some tax advantages. I talk to, engineers and lawyers and doctors and dentists all the time. Almost every week, I'm talking to at least one of those people who have money, but they're highly paid professionals and they don't have a ton of time. And even though laundromats don't take a ton of time, I think a lot of these people would be willing to partner with somebody who has the time and the knowledge to just make sure the business is running well and they get that peace of mind. And it might cost them a little bit in terms of their return on their investment, but there's so much margin. Another great reason to buy a laundromat is that there's so much margin in there that they can give up some of the cash flow or some of the equity or whatever in the business in order to make it almost completely hands off, to where they just need to check in with you, make sure things are running well. So if you have the knowledge and you have the time, you can start going out looking for people who have the money, but maybe don't have the time and the knowledge that you have, and saying, hey, let's do this together. I'll bring the time, the energy, the effort, the knowledge, and you bring the money. We can partner together and you can have a relatively hands-off investment that's throwing off great cash flow and tax advantages for you. And I can help you run the laundromat and benefit from that cash flow and equity also, or however you want to negotiate it. But partnering with someone, if you don't have money or you just don't want to spend your money, but you do have time and you do have knowledge, or at least time to be able to learn what you need to learn, then that can be a great way to get a laundromat for free. So seller financing and partnering, awesome ways to get into the laundromat business. I highly encourage both of them. You do need to be careful about who you partner with, and they need to be careful about you too. And so, do your due diligence on each other. But if you find the right person and you have the right fit and you find the right laundromat to buy, that can be a great combination and a great way to get into a laundromat for free. So that is the second way that you can get a laundromat for free. Now, here's the thing. Let's get into the dirty little secret of how you can get a laundromat for free without seller financing, without having a partner, and just getting a laundromat. It's yours and for free. This is the one that's been touted on YouTube. It's all over. You'll see who's trying to sell courses about this and who's trying to keep this information secret. But again, it's a well-known strategy and technique in the laundromat industry. This is no secret at all. You don't need to pay any money at all for this. I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it right here. So let's get into it. Here's what you do. You start driving around your town or your city or wherever, and you look for laundromats that have been recently closed down. That's right. You go find a location. It's closed down. There's boards in the windows, or there's paper taped in the windows, or there's a for lease sign in the window, or whatever. You go look for a place that used to be a laundromat and it's not a laundromat anymore. And what you do is you find out who the landlord or the property manager is, and you go to them and you say, hey, I am interested in putting a laundromat back in this space. Let's get some negotiations going, and let's try to negotiate this thing so I can make this happen. And what you'll find is Sometimes what'll happen, this has happened to me, where a landlord is just set on not wanting to have a laundromat in that space anymore. And the reason generally for that is that laundromats can attract a certain demographic of people that's not necessarily beneficial to the rest of the stores in a shopping center. So laundromats can attract and do tend to attract a homeless population a lot of times. And, homeless people need to come do their laundry. And sometimes they, try to come clean up there too. Or sometimes they'll just try to squat there for a while if you're not on top of it. And it's, it's sad and unfortunate, but it's also part of the business. And so, it needs to be dealt with in the proper way. But sometimes landlords are just over it. And this has happened to me. I found a spot. Laundromat just closed down. And so I went and talked to the landlord, and the landlord said, hey, we're trying to not get a laundromat there. And in fact, that's pretty funny because that store stayed vacant for at least a year and a half. And I haven't gone by it in a while, but it was vacant for at least a year and a half. So they could have been having income coming in with a laundromat in there. But alas, it was not meant to be that time. But you can go and sometimes the landlord will say, okay, well, let's talk about that, because obviously there's not a laundromat there anymore. And so you need to be very careful when doing this method. I will say that doing this increases the risk, especially if you don't know what you're doing, of owning a laundromat, because that laundromat closed down for a reason. And you got to figure out what was that reason and how are you going to make sure that that does not happen again. And if you're interested in figuring out what that reason is, and I actually have an infographic. I'll put a link down in the bio, an infographic on the 10 most common reasons that I've seen that laundromats close down. People ask me that all the time. Well, if they're such cash cows, why would anyone ever sell one, or why would one ever close down? And so I have the 10 top reasons that I've seen that laundromat owners either sell it or that it closes down. And if you want that infographic, I'll put a link down below and go check it out there, and then share it with all your people, because I'm sure they really, really, really want to know why laundromats owners sell their laundromats or why they close down. But anyways, going back to it, you need to figure out why. I don't know. I'm sorry. You need to figure out why that laundromat closed down and what exactly your plan is for making sure that doesn't happen to you. And that's just something that you got to work out before you jump into this. So anyways, you go to the landlord, you say, hey, I want to put a new laundromat in there. The landlord says, okay, let's negotiate a lease. You negotiate a lease, and then you get to work. Now, here's the thing is you own a lease for a store, but you don't really own a laundromat. The infrastructure should be there. That's the benefit of finding one that's closed down as opposed to any other, space that's for lease that's closed down. A prior laundromat will have the infrastructure, the plumbing, the electrical, all the bulkheads should be there. All that stuff should be in place. Now you have the lease for that place, but you got to get equipment in there, and equipment is not free and it's not cheap. It can be very expensive. So here's how you kind of get around this. And again, this is going to vary depending on you, your experience, your credit score, maybe who you're partnering with. But you go into the store and then you go find some manufacturer or some distributors of equipment, and you say, hey, I have this store that I'm trying to put under contract for a lease. I want to put a laundromat back in it, and I need some equipment. Excuse me. What can you offer me? And a lot of times, distributors will be able to offer 100% financing on equipment. Now, that's not always the case, and sometimes they will require you to have at least a couple years experience in the industry. However, I have a giant tortoise, and he's making a ruckus over here. I'll put a link to the picture of my giant tortoise below in case you're interested. Sorry, excuse me though. So you go to the distributor and you say, hey, I want to put some equipment in here. And a lot of times they'll have 100% financing. They won't always give you the 100% financing deal if you don't have enough experience, or they're not super confident that your laundromat is going to succeed for whatever reasons. But the way that you kind of combat that is maybe that you partner with somebody who has experience. Maybe there's another laundromat owner in the area that's willing to partner with you, that you can kind of trade on their experience and say, hey, I'm starting up this laundromat here. And I'm trying to get 100% financing on equipment so that this business pays for itself again. And they won't do it with me because I don't have enough experience. Do you want to partner on this laundromat deal? We can, 50-50 or whatever you want to negotiate. And that way they can see that you have experience. We can make this thing succeed and make it a profitable business. And that's the way around that if they won't give you that financing. But I've also found that if you push a little bit, just a little bit, and if you talk to a couple of different distributors, a lot of times they'll compete against each other. And that's happened to me. And not only have I saved literally tens of thousands of dollars by doing that, by talking to multiple distributors and, making sure I'm getting the best deal. But also their financing terms get a little more attractive. I've dropped rates and I've extended lease terms because I'm a big believer in using debt to accelerate wealth. And so extending that those loan terms out longer just gives me more cash flow while I'm paying that loan off. As opposed to paying it off sooner and then having the cash flow. I'm a believer of money now is more valuable than money later. So neither here nor there. However you want to do it. But I've found that by negotiating with these distributors and the financing companies that work with them, that you can often kind of overcome some of these hurdles. If you hit a roadblock, a good thing to do maybe would just try to partner with somebody, give us a call. Maybe we'll partner with you. We have done partnerships before. So maybe we would partner with you, or maybe we'd be able to connect you with somebody who's willing to partner. So if you find yourself in that situation, I'll put a link down below, but just go to laundromatresource.com/coaching and book yourself for a call and we'll chat about it. So that is the way that you get a laundromat for free. Now here's the rub is it's not really free, right? So even if you consider financing 100% of the equipment, free, there's gonna be things that you need to do still. So, you're probably gonna need to do some renovations of the store if it's closed down. You might need to put a new boiler in there and those aren't cheap. You got to try to finance that too. You're going to need change machines. You might need some inventory. You're going to have to buy quarters to fill the change machines with. If you're doing a coin store, you're going to have to buy a card system if you're doing that. There's expenses. You're going to want to have money in the bank, for the first at least 3 months, preferably like 6 months of operating expenses, just so you don't die before you really get going. So there is going to be money required. And that's kind of the dirty secret of this little secret is that there's nothing for free. Now, don't get discouraged because you can combine partnering with somebody with this super secret way of getting a free laundromat. If there are expenses that are going to come out and you just really don't have the money, we'll partner with somebody with the money and say, hey, I'm getting this laundromat for free, but we need some capital to get some renovations done. We want to do paint. We've got to, redo the bulkheads and the counters, the folding tables and the flooring and whatever. Here's how much we're going to need. Are you interested in partnering with this part of it? So you're going to hit roadblocks along the way, but I just want to encourage you to, if this is something that you're determined to do, don't stop at the roadblocks and say, oh, well, couldn't make it happen. There are ways around all of these roadblocks. So if you're somebody who's determined to get a laundromat and to benefit from the powerful wealth building properties of a laundromat, don't let these hurdles stop you. It's one of the difficult things about getting into the laundromat industry. However, it's also a benefit because if it was easy to get into and so lucrative, everybody would be doing it and there wouldn't be opportunities for you to get in there. So you just got to be a little more resilient if you're trying to get a laundromat for free. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you about the other way that's part of this, these courses that are out there to get a free laundromat. I'm going to tell you the other way, and I'm just going to tell you up front, I do not recommend you doing this. And it's in my opinion, it's ethically shady. But I'm going to put it out there because it's in the courses that I've seen. It's part of this industry. And I'll tell you after why I don't feel great about this technique, but people have done it and it's worked out for them. So here's what it looks like. It's similar to finding a vacant laundromat. However, it's more of finding a laundromat that's up and running, but that is it's a disaster. It's in shambles. The lighting is out. Half the machines are broken. Looks like nobody's really cleaning the place. It's just dingy and dark or whatever. And basically what you do is you go talk to the landlord and say, hey, you got a laundromat in this property here, and it is not a good look for your property. Why don't, how much time is on the lease? If it's coming up, why don't you not renew that lease and let me kind of come in there? Here's what I want to do. I want to put in some new machines. I want to clean the place up, put some fresh paint, redo the flooring, make it nice, new, shiny, pretty. And that's going to be a good look for your real estate establishment. Now, that can be very effective. If I'm a landlord, I'm very intrigued by that because, obviously you want your investment property to not only perform well financially, but also just to look good. You want people to want to come to your property to do business. And so that's an attractive proposition. Here's what I don't like about it. And again, this is just my opinion. It may be fine in your eyes, and that's totally fine. But here's why I don't love that. I don't like the idea of doing things behind people's back that's really going to affect them in their lives. So maybe they're not doing a great job at running that laundromat. If it's me and I'm interested in that laundromat, I'd probably go talk to that owner and say, hey, look, this laundromat seems like it's giving you a tough time. You don't seem to be really, keeping up with it. I'd be interested in taking it over if it's just too big of a hassle for you, whatever. I don't like going behind their back to the landlord and, creating these plans to kind of swoop in and take over. Even though that might be the best thing for the landlord, that might be the best thing for me. I just don't like doing that behind someone's back. So do with that what you will. Again, I don't advocate doing that, but it's a technique that's used and it's taught in some of these courses. So there it is. Those are the secret ways to get a laundromat for free. And again, there are lots of different ways to get laundromats for free. We just covered 3 of them and one kind of shady one. But there are lots of different ways, and you're only limited by the way that you think. You're only limited by your own mind, your own creativity. So don't limit that. If you're finding yourself running up against obstacles, just, think about how you can overcome those obstacles. And if you can't figure it out, then pull someone else in, sign up for a free coaching call, or talk to some other laundromat owners and see what they've done. Jump on a forum and see, talk to owners there. We have a forum on our site. It's still budding and up and running, but it's in its infancy. It could use some help, but go in there and ask around. At the very least, I'll be hanging out in there and I'll answer some questions in that forum. All that to say, if you're someone who's trying to get into the laundromat business, you don't have a lot of money to get into it, don't be discouraged. I know the high cost of laundromat is a big barrier to entry for most people, but it doesn't have to be. It might take a little more work. It might take a little more time. It might take a little more dedication, but you can get one for free, and it can change your life if you do it correctly. So I encourage you to, explore that a little bit more if that's something that's interesting to you. And if you know someone else who is interested in getting a laundromat for free, or maybe you want to partner with somebody to get a laundromat for free, share this video with them, and that would help me out. That would help them out. That might help you out. Look at that. Everybody's winning right now. And that's the way that I like to do things. So yeah, share this video. If you have any questions or comments about any of this, drop a comment down below and I'll be there. So I'll answer any questions you have there. All right, so now you know the secret ways to get a laundromat for free. So get out there, start hustling. Here's the thing is that you can watch all of these YouTube videos. You can go and read all of our blog posts. You can sign up for a coaching call, but none of it is going to change your life unless you start to take action. So if you need some help taking action, do this. If nothing else, sign up for a coaching call. When we jump on the phone together, say, hey, I just need help getting started. I need to take my first step, and I'll kick your butt a little bit, but I'll also give you some direction to go. So let's do this thing. Again, we're here to try to help you find financial freedom through laundromat ownership, and we are dedicated to doing that. We're giving a ton away of resources. We're giving a ton of information away, and we're giving a ton of our own just time away by offering to get on the phone with you. So take advantage of it. And we'll see you in the next video for Laundromat Resource and laundromatresource.com. See you guys.